What's going on, everybody? Doc from Average Gamer Guys back yet again, and finally bringing you the Halo Wars 2 Awakening the Nightmare campaign walkthroughs. So we're jumping through this. This episode is going to be for what could go wrong, the first mission of the campaign. We're going to talk through it, working through it on easy, and talking through all of the bonus and optional objectives. So you can see here up on screen, 3 optional, 2 bonus for this first mission. Expand all base plots, rescue the Reavers, build all turret slots, capture all of the power nodes 4 for 4, and then salvage all of the Covenant resources. So if you're not familiar with my guides, I do speed through the portions that are pretty canned, just to kind of keep us clicking along. Want to make these as short as possible for you while still providing the best guide. And in these, again, I'm just going to talk through the strategy. I'm going to talk through the best way to go about knocking out the achievements that are associated with this. So for this, it's going to be getting a gold medal while also completing all of the optional and bonus objectives on the single playthrough. So to set this up before you even get into the mission, I definitely recommend doing these on easy. You need to throw any skulls or anything like that on. Just running through these on easy. The missions are good enough, pretty fair enough for the most part, and really shouldn't have too much trouble, especially with kind of how the enemy's set up. And easy mode really does kind of give you a good chance to get through this, and definitely provides the time in order to knock out all of these bonus and optional objectives. I will say with the Awakening the Nightmare, the entirety of the campaign, I actually felt all the bonus and optional objectives were really fair. There were a few scares for me on just a few of them, but once I kind of reviewed and took a look at my play, it ends up being that a lot of them, again, as long as you're paying attention and you can snag them all up, and you're focusing on completing them, you guys really shouldn't have too much of a problem. I'm also gonna talk through actually picking up all of the Phoenix logs for this entire campaign, so make sure to stay tuned and watch for those. And speaking of which, here's our first one. There typically are 2 throughout the entire campaign on each mission, so that's what we'll be looking for, and I'll show you all the locations for all of those. So jumping right into this mission, what could go wrong, is a pretty fun mission, definitely really interesting. I really liked the entirety of this campaign, had a lot of fun with it. I think seeing it from the Banished side is actually really neat. I like the Pavium and Vortis kind of banter that they have between each other, and actually this was a really well done campaign in my opinion to kind of bring the Flood in, make them a pretty tough enemy while still having a good time and getting to kind of explore the different units that we get to see from these new Banished leaders. So very impressed, really had a good time with it. So this is the first of the different mission guides, so make sure to stay tuned if you need any help with any of the specific ones. I will have all of those uploaded here very shortly. I also will have campaign walkthrough guides for every mission on Legendary as well. That way we can go through, and a couple of the missions pretty tough. So hopefully I'll be able to provide some good tips for that, kind of some more specific things as far as build order, and more specific strategies for a lot of that. So in this, honestly, the biggest thing, again, we're going to focus on is just trying to show you and knock out all of the different optional and bonus objectives. For this first portion of the mission, if you've played through it already, you know it's just pretty standard base build. They give you just over 4 minutes, and really you need to use this time, and I don't do it very effectively, but use this time, use your units that you have, get around this map, and just kind of explore. Definitely recommend not doing what I did here initially. Go ahead and build this base first. Get your supplies rolling, get all of your economy going. I recommend 2 power generators, 3 of the supply pads just to get the initial economy really rolling. Then you can throw in a war council to upgrade your population cap, as well as how fast your units crank out. And that's going to be important because the Scarab is going to buy you a good amount of time. He does take a good chunk of time to get through the barriers, but at the same time you do need essentially just time in order to explore all of the portion of this map. Once you get to this base build, you're going to knock out a good 80% of what you need to do for optional bonus objectives here, just in this portion of the map alone. The first one, as you can see me doing right here, is getting to all of these different spawn points for the Sentinels and trying to take out the turrets and then build turrets of your own. So that's really critical and important, because the Forerunner turrets, even on easy, they don't do a ton of damage, but they do have a crap ton of health. So you need to be able to get out. You're obviously going to need Reavers to help escort the Scarab, and the Scarab can still go down pretty easily on easy mode. So just keep that in mind. You are going to need a decent force of them to help assist with that. But more importantly, you're also going to need Marauders to help you move around the map and knock out all of those different Forerunner turrets that you're going to end up having to fight. So definitely my army composition throughout the majority of this is Reavers just to help protect the Scarab, a few Reavers, and a couple Marauders to help clean up all of the different base locations, as well as the Forerunner turrets. Now you see I've got the War Console up, that's cranking. I'm making all these turrets around the base anti-air. The only thing that you're going to see pretty much throughout the entirety of this mission, except for when you meet the UNSC for a little chunk, is going to be air units. It's obviously the biggest portion that will end up fighting your base, so just keep that in mind. But you see me upgrading all my turrets and just getting everything going. So after that 4-minute period, that's where we're at now. The Scarab is walking in, and again, you do have time. He moves pretty slow, and he will take his time to knock out this barricade here. This is probably one of the little portions, again, that I screwed up because I tried to move too fast in the expansion. I would definitely focus on one area at a time. I would go bottom left of the map first, where that first, or the second spawn point rather, for the Sentinels right here. I would focus on that first, get a couple Marauders, get one of your Disruptors up and usable, send that team down there, knock those turrets out, drop a Disruptor on it, and then build your turrets, because the turrets honestly by themselves, especially on easy mode, they're going to be able to handle all of the Sentinels that come out for the most part. They might eventually get overwhelmed, but for the majority of the time they're going to be able to do just fine, especially if you have the power and the supplies to be able to upgrade them and make them anti-air. Super effective and really easy to take out. So here you see me, I've got a pretty good little team. I finally got a Marauder pumped out. I'm going to move just a couple Reavers over there to help protect. I'll keep a couple at the base just to keep myself safe. And at this point I am going to move in and start to knock these turrets out. Important to note too as well, the Disruptors do lock these things down, which is really nice. So you can really save yourself a lot of headache and heartache by just timing those appropriately and making sure that you have one right before you go in to go ahead and try to knock the turrets themselves out. So once you complete this and you get those 2 turrets built, you're a good portion of the way of knocking out that bonus objective. I'm then going to shift, as you see I'm doing right here, to the bottom right portion of the map, and I'm going to go ahead and try to clear out the UNSC forces down there, rescue the few of the Reavers that I have, and also grab the second of the power nodes, which one is located, down in that bottom right portion of the map. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, still focusing on the base build, still focusing in on trying to get reinforcements, trying to get all of that stuff done. I'm also going to try to focus in on getting the base itself and turret capability upgraded as well. So I want to see that at increased damage. I want to see the increased health on the turrets, because that's just going to help me sustain all of the bases and all the turrets that we have to build a lot longer. So at this point here, you see that I did break through that little mini barrier. Definitely not necessary. Your Scarab, actually, when he rolls through, if you don't end up destroying that, will destroy on his own, and I definitely recommend doing that. There's no real push because the Scarab's essentially going to take the same amount of time just about to knock out all these different portions as well. So I wouldn't recommend pushing like I did into that. Definitely don't forget this power node right here. I made the mistake of not having any infantry with me, so definitely include a few of those into your little roaming army as well. But you can see, like I was mentioning, you can see at this point I've got a pretty good little force right there. The Scarab's doing just fine. He's got a couple of health ticked off, but nothing really too terrible. And really I'm just going to pull this force and I'm going to move it along with him, not only to keep the Scarab safe, but you also have a good portion of what you need to do up kind of in this upper right hand portion of the map as well. Now the nice thing is you can use the Scarab. He's going to do a lot of your damage for you, except for this spawn point right here, which again is going to have 2 Forerunner turrets at and can be pretty brutal again by themselves. So make sure you're focusing in on those. This is kind of the next key area in order to get those bonus and optional objectives. I have found that the Rain of Fire, as much as I really like that in Blitz, and as much as I really like that in Terminus Firefight, it's not too good in this, to be honest with you, especially against these Forerunner turrets, I've come to find. So you're going to see Scarab still moving along. I made the mistake here of bringing that group up there. Should not have done that. Did not need them there as I thought I had. And again, I probably focused a little bit too much on keeping these turrets alive. All you really need to do is just make sure that you've built on each of them, and you should be fine for the majority of that. So again, I made the mistake here. Definitely don't make my mistake. Just go ahead and don't heal the UNSC base because they are definitely enemies. But also keep that army. Don't worry about pushing into the UNSC forces. Again, your Scarab is going to be just fine. And actually just have them follow along here, because you're going to see, again, you need to take these two Forerunner turrets out. And then there's actually another power node and also a mini base up here, all of which you need to get built and get going for the bonus and optional objectives. So again, just kind of as a side tangent, hopefully you guys have really enjoyed the campaign, and hopefully you've played through some of these missions at least once before. But again, if you haven't, really again, if you follow these guides that I'm going to have for you, and I'll have the rest of the campaign up here pretty shortly, at least over the next week or so, all of those will go up. Hopefully all of this is helpful for you. I definitely have enjoyed doing these. It's probably been one of the more enjoyable things, along with Blitz mode, and now honestly Terminus Firefight, having a ton of fun doing that. We do have some strategies and tip guides up if you're looking for just some additional tips or knowledge on that. And I do want to do here shortly, hopefully, kind of a breakdown of all the different leaders for Terminus Firefight, because you have a lot of good options, some definitely better than others, but definitely had some success solo and in co-op, working through with some different leaders. So hopefully we'll have some more strategies up here for you shortly. So getting back to this, there's your third power node that you need to grab. We did finally knock out these turrets here, which is really good, and was able to get those built. The other important portion of this to make sure that you have is ensure that you have a couple Reavers or jump pack brutes with you. There's going to be portions of this map and portions of a lot of the other maps, honestly, that you need that jump brute capability in order to get to certain areas, especially to grab power supplies in this, as well as a few of the different things you're going to see here, again, by this third spawn point, I guess, yeah, third or fourth spawn point at this point, that you need the capability to jump up here and actually knock out those supplies that you got to get gathered. So that's important to note. Again, you got to have your infantry to be able to collect that power node there for you. But again, this map does a nice job of giving you plenty of options to build turrets. Here is one of your other mini bases that you do need to collect. And there we go. We've knocked out one of the optional objectives, which is to expand, or we started one of the optional objectives to expand to all the different base plots. Honestly, I didn't build much from the base plots. Really everything stayed centralized for me at the main base for the majority of this, minus this final base expansion that you'll get from the UNSC. I did put some time into that one, just because Reavers and having a few of the additional units, especially a raid camp there, was really beneficial for me. Getting some of the additional things that are going to be kind of off to the side of the map, and honestly pretty easy to miss if you're not paying attention. That's the one thing I did find with this one. With this map, was they kind of hid everything pretty well, which was kind of surprising. They usually do that. Usually the Phoenix logs maybe are a little bit more harder to find, or one of the optional objectives is a little bit harder to find, but there's a couple here we'll show you in just a few minutes that honestly were took some pretty good coordination in order to knock out, and I spent actually probably an extra 2 minutes or so looking for the final one of the enemy supplies to pick up, which was a little frustrating and definitely cost me a little bit of time, but worth it in the end to be able to knock out this achievement. I would definitely recommend here, don't build an air pad. You're not going to make anything from this. I would have just made that supplies, although your economy should be all set for what you have going. especially again here on easy mode. That's my biggest recommendation. I know people try to knock out as much as they can. For instance, knocking out this mission on Legendary while getting a gold medal, while also knocking out all the bonus and optional objectives. Definitely don't recommend doing that. I think you can do all the achievements if you really plan them out in about 2 playthroughs, which is what I'm working through right now. And for the majority of these, the bonus and optional objectives, as well as the gold medal, is really the only additional achievement assigned to it, minus beating it on a specific level, or specific difficulty, excuse me. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're working through this. The campaign, like I said, I have played through it on Legendary, is much tougher on Legendary, as it should be, but they just present a lot more challenges, and some of the flood missions are pretty difficult just with the sheer amount of enemies that you're seeing. So again, here we're going to build this base plot. I am going to go ahead and definitely recommend, and Apex was beneficial for me because again, your supplies should be rolling pretty good at this point. Minus me, I kind of ran out of supplies. I was probably a little heavy on the energy for this side, but I definitely do recommend a foundry because that's going to help you just reinforce any of the reavers that you need to kind of push through the last portion of this mission. But definitely also build that raid camp. The raid camp, hugely beneficial for the sole fact that a lot of this right here, one, you're going to need jump pack brutes. Absolutely need the jump pack brutes in order to grab that last and final power node that you see right there on the screen. You also need the capability to jump and grab some of these supplies. Reavers are definitely capable of doing that, which is nice. But you also have to find that spawn point as well. So here, again, this is the section that was just honestly pretty well hidden. The fact that you're going to jump to each of these different locations also takes time, so that's important to note. The nice thing here is they do give you the time with the Scarab. That mini base builds pretty quickly. The rest of that stuff builds pretty quickly, which is good. Do not forget to throw both of your turrets in on that spawn point as well. That's very important, as that is one of your other optional objectives to go ahead and knock out. And from that, really, this pretty much kind of takes care of the optional and bonus objectives that you need to do. Just make sure you're paying close attention to the different nooks and crannies on the map, and really just expand, pay attention, moving around the map freely. Get your good group of marauders and reavers together with just a few infantry units. Again, jump pack brutes is my recommendation, and just kind of move around the map, because there's going to be one core that I can actually see on the screen now that I'm going to spend, like I said, about 2 minutes looking for, and really getting myself kind of frustrated because I could not find it, and it was really sitting right in front of me. The other nice thing about this, one of the leader abilities that you have is obviously to clear up some fog of war, which is actually a pretty good ability that that'll give you some good chance to kind of scout the map out and kind of see where you're going before you head over there. The nice thing is, once you do get to the final portion, and the Scarab is moving around the last little bit, actually all of the fog of war on the entire map will clear up, which makes searching for some of this stuff actually a whole lot easier. So you're going to see here at this point, I realize I do need the jump pack brutes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go get this power node. What am I doing? I guess I do end up upgrading them. Not necessary, I don't think, either on easy. Definitely not the smoothest of the playthrough, but definitely still did knock all of this out and get it done on this run. So pretty happy with that. And like I said, comparative to some of the other bonus and optional objectives that we had seen in the original campaign, these all seem much more reasonable, much more user-friendly. Again, the difficulty is with kind of some of them just finding them, and not so much with trying to work a certain specific situation in order to get them knocked out. So here is another pretty well hidden one of the supply cores that you do need to take out. Again, jump brutes or your reavers, definitely capable of doing that. And here is the second of 2 Phoenix logs for this mission as well, so make sure you're staying and focusing in on that, and able to grab that and get that all completed. On a side note, some of the lore for some of the Phoenix logs is actually really neat. That's one thing about this that I've always kind of enjoyed. Even with the first Halo Wars, they did a great job of talking through like the timeline and everything like that. You get a lot more lore kind of specific things in this one. And again, just really enjoyed this campaign, and just the Banished side of it. I was kind of surprised when they announced this that we were going to kind of be getting that look, and definitely was not disappointed. I've said in a lot of other videos, if you guys are fans of the channel, that this is just one of those games where the campaign really kind of was the glue for me in this one. As you know, not super impressed, I guess, with you know, the multiplayer side of things. Not quite as balanced as I would have liked it to be overall in the end, and I know there are still balance issues. Blitz mode for me was a ton of fun, but also had its own issues. But the campaign, like I said, very well done. You get a good variety of different missions, good capability to build, and I think the kind of the curve for learning on a lot of this was really well done, where they're not overwhelming you. Even in this, they don't overwhelm you with too many build options at first, and as you progress through these different missions, you're actually able to get more build capability, more units, upgrade things a little bit farther, up until the last mission where you really do get the full capability to kind of build the base. So that's really nice. I thought that was really neat, and a good variety of additional leader powers that obviously you don't see in any of the other modes, multiplayer modes, just for the sole fact that they are kind of mission specific, but pretty neat as well. I will say too, and I've said this about the initial campaign, the blur cinematics are absolutely awesome. Like, I wish every cinematic that they would have had would have been done by them. Absolutely an awesome studio. Like, probably some of the most quality cinematics I've seen in any game, and it just goes to show you the kind of the time that they put into it. I know there was did read a few complaints talking about it, wishing that there were more of them. That would be a complaint that I would share. I just wish they would have done, again, all of them, but I know that's obviously also probably outside the scope of the budget for this DLC as well. But hopefully in future games they continue to use them. Hopefully in the next iteration of Halo, and if we get another iteration of Halo Wars, hopefully we get to see them do some more work and do more of these of the cutscenes, because they're just absolutely gorgeous. That's really all I can say. They're just awesome. So this is me searching around for this last core, again, that I can't find because I just guess I don't know what I'm doing, and it ends up just being there sitting right in my face. I'm just like desperately searching, and again, you see me, I spend so much time actually searching, and it just ends up being right there by that final, I guess the second to last mini base that you end up having to build on. Importantly enough, as well, you'll see there is one here right before this light bridge that you're going to need to go ahead and grab as well, just to the north of that, so make sure don't miss that one. Good chance here to obviously get your Scarab and things going. This is that last second to last of the power cores that we need, or supply drops rather, that we need to be able to pick up. And when you get to this point, you should be pretty well set with everything, to be honest. Now, you can kind of extend the time and make sure that you don't end up actually running out of time, kind of like I almost did, because I still couldn't find that last power node, by just, again, not activating that bridge. But again, here you'll see once you get Vortis in there, and he's starting to key up and mess with the controls, you'll see that the fog of war completely goes away. So it gives you good capability to get around the map, build anything that you need to build. If you missed any portion of it, now's your chance to actually just take a look around and just make sure you're all set. If you guys don't know, obviously you can hit your back button, and that will show up and actually bring up the optional bonus objectives that you've keyed up, and as well as show you ones that maybe you haven't even triggered. Go ahead and go back to the beginning of this video for sure, pause it, and just make sure you're seeing all of the bonus and optional objectives. Additionally, if you're doing this like I am and desperately searching around, make sure to pay attention to your Scarab health, because my Scarab gets down pretty low here, probably a little too uncomfortably low. So just make sure you're kind of focusing in on that. But since again you now know where they all are, that was the one that was giving me the most trouble. You really shouldn't have too much problem. Go ahead and knocking all these out as you move through the mission. And again, there's a lot more that you could do a lot better than I did it, that's for sure. You can see my Scarab gets down to about 8, maybe just a little bit under 8% health, which is really not good. But that's the one portion where Rain of Fire comes in absolutely awesome. I have this disruptor, and I kind of saved the day for myself, and I'm just like desperately waiting to get my healing capability back online, because at this point I did not want to have to restart from a checkpoint, and I did not have to want to restart the mission in general. Now I will say, as you're working through this, if you do come to a point, there's going to be a mission here and a few that definitely gave me some trouble with just one of the optional objectives. You can still complete it by go ahead and doing these, getting all the bonus and optional objectives, even if you have to restart from a checkpoint. So that's important to note. Because it gives you a good capability if you do just miss something or maybe just barely screw something up. The mission I'm talking about has abominations that will walk forward, and they spawn in very quickly even on easy, and they have a ton of health even on easy, so they can be pretty hard to take down. You can go ahead, like I said, and restart from a checkpoint if you end up missing something, and still be able to complete it with a gold medal with all of the bonus and optional objectives complete as well. So this really wraps up the end of this. You're going to see this Retriever Sentinel come in, and from that point we'll have everything all set. You do the puzzle and you are home free, which is also a very good feeling. So sorry for a little bit longer of the video. There's probably a little bit more that I could have gone ahead and fast forwarded through, but I did want to kind of show some of the locations for a lot of this stuff. And just kind of give my initial comments on the campaign and how much I've enjoyed it up to this point. So you'll finish this up, you'll trigger this, you'll get an awesome blur cutscene after this, and we'll wrap it up. So gold medal score for your awareness, 77,000. No issue doing that, especially if you were right at part-time. I was just over by 30 seconds. You'll see we'll get 2 achievements to pop here. Serving a new master, which is completing it, and then obviously the achievement for getting a gold and all optional and bonus objectives at the same time. And again, combat score is always going to be pretty good. Combat score and time bonus are going to be your 2 biggest factors to go ahead and work the gold medals, but again, on easy. Shouldn't have any issue finishing in time, and should also not really have any issues with a good combat bonus as well, just for the sole fact that you probably won't lose a ton of units in the majority of these missions, which is really nice. And then objective score is always going to be the same as long as you're knocking out all the different objectives. So you'll see 11,000 points here for this one. Interestingly enough, when you do complete these campaign missions, you also do get additional packs, and you do new experience cap for completing the missions as well, which is pretty neat. So if you're not quite at that level 50, like I'm pretty far away from, you are going to get some additional benefits out of that. So again, here's the wrap up. Here's your optional, your bonus objectives. Again, probably the hardest of these is just going to be salvaging the Covenant resources, just because they do spread them around the map quite well. I will also say the power nodes, with the one that needs to jump brute off the map, is pretty difficult. But hopefully this was beneficial for you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please make sure leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. It definitely helps the channel out. We'll have the rest of the guides up for the different missions coming up here very shortly, so stay tuned for those, and legendary guides as well. I've been Doc from Average Gamer, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Appreciate you, and we'll catch you in the next one.